Imagine waking up one day and realizing the names, faces, and memories that once defined your life are slowly slipping away. Not because of fate, but because of what you've been eating every single day. According to evolutionary biologist Dr. Daniel Lieberman, the human brain wasn't designed for the modern diet. In fact, many of the foods we now consider normal are quietly accelerating brain aging, especially after the age of 45, when the brain becomes far more vulnerable to damage, inflammation, and shrinkage. What if I told you that one of the most dangerous threats to your memory isn't hidden in some rare disease, but sitting quietly on your plate every single day? It looks harmless. It tastes comforting. It's in your tea, your desserts, your snacks, even in foods labeled healthy. But over time, this one ingredient begins to change your brain in ways you can't feel until it's too late: refined sugar. According to Dr. Daniel Lieberman, the human body, and especially the brain, was never designed to handle the constant flood of sugar that defines modern diets. For most of human history, sugar was rare. It came in the form of seasonal fruits or natural honey, consumed occasionally, not continuously. But today, your brain is being exposed to levels of sugar it has never evolved to process. And the damage begins silently. The moment you consume refined sugar, your blood glucose levels spike rapidly. This sudden surge forces your body to release insulin, a hormone that helps shuttle sugar out of your bloodstream. At first, this system works efficiently, but repeated day after day, year after year, your cells begin to resist insulin's signal. This is where the real danger begins. Because when insulin resistance develops, it doesn't just affect your muscles or your liver, it affects your brain. Scientists now use a disturbing term to describe this condition: type 3 diabetes. It refers to insulin resistance specifically in the brain, and it has been strongly linked to memory loss and cognitive decline. Imagine your brain cells slowly losing their ability to access the energy they need to survive. They begin to starve, even while your bloodstream is flooded with sugar. And as these cells weaken, something even more destructive takes place: inflammation. Chronic high sugar intake triggers a constant inflammatory response in the brain. This isn't the kind of inflammation you can feel like pain or swelling. This is silent inflammation, microscopic, persistent, and devastating. It attacks neurons. It disrupts communication between brain cells. It damages synapses, the very connections that allow you to think, learn, and remember. Over time, this inflammation begins to shrink one of the most critical parts of your brain, the hippocampus. The hippocampus is responsible for forming new memories and storing information. It is, in many ways, the control center of your memory. And studies have shown something deeply alarming. People who consume high amounts of sugar tend to have a smaller hippocampus compared to those who don't. A smaller hippocampus means weaker memory, slower learning, increased risk of dementia. This is not a theory. This is measurable, visible damage. And it doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, quietly, over years of everyday choices. A spoon of sugar in your tea, a soft drink in the afternoon, a packaged snack between meals. Each one seems insignificant, but together they form a pattern that gradually rewires your brain for decline. But sugar's damage doesn't stop at inflammation. It also accelerates something called oxidative stress. Inside your brain, every cell produces energy, but in the process, it also produces harmful byproducts known as free radicals. Normally, your body can neutralize these with antioxidants, but when sugar intake is high, free radical production increases dramatically. Your brain begins to experience oxidative overload. Think of it like rust forming inside your brain cells. This rust damages DNA, weakens cell structures, and speeds up aging at a cellular level. Over time, your brain doesn't just function worse, it physically ages faster. And here's the most chilling part. You may not notice any of this in your 30s or even your 40s, because the brain is incredibly resilient, until it isn't. After the age of 45, your brain's ability to repair itself begins to decline. The damage that once went unnoticed now starts to accumulate. Memory slips become more frequent. Focus becomes harder. Names take longer to recall. And by the time most people reach 60 or 70, the effects are no longer subtle. They become life-altering. Forgetting conversations, misplacing familiar objects, struggling to recognize faces, losing pieces of a life that once felt permanent. All of it, in part, shaped by years of dietary choices. But here's where the story changes. Because the same science that reveals the damage also reveals the solution. Your brain has an incredible ability to heal if you give it the right environment. And that begins with one simple shift: replacing refined sugar with natural, nutrient-dense alternatives. Fruits, for example, contain natural sugars, but they come packaged with fiber, vitamins, and powerful antioxidants. This combination slows down sugar absorption, preventing the dangerous spikes that damage your brain. Among these, berries stand out as some of the most powerful brain-protective foods on the planet. Blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, They are loaded with compounds called flavonoids. These compounds have been shown to reduce inflammation, improve communication between brain cells, and even stimulate the growth of new neurons. In other words, they don't just protect your brain, they help rebuild it. Imagine replacing a daily sugary snack with a bowl of fresh berries. It seems like a small change, almost insignificant. But over time, that one habit can begin to reverse the very processes that lead to memory loss. Your blood sugar stabilizes, inflammation decreases, oxidative stress is reduced. Your brain begins to function more efficiently, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to reclaim something most people think is lost with age: clarity, focus, memory. This is the power of understanding what sugar is really doing inside your brain. It's not just about calories. It's not just about weight. It's about your identity. Your memories are who you are. They are your experiences, your relationships, your story. And every time you choose what to eat, you are either protecting that story or erasing parts of it. So the next time you reach for something sweet, pause for a moment. Ask yourself a simple question: is this feeding my brain or slowly destroying it? Because the answer to that question, repeated day after day, will shape the way you think, remember, and live for the rest of your life. There is a silent substance flowing through your kitchen right now, hidden in plain sight, used every single day. And unlike sugar, it doesn't taste dangerous. It doesn't warn you. It doesn't shock your senses. But over time, it begins to change your brain in ways that are almost impossible to reverse. These are industrial seed oils. According to Dr. Daniel Lieberman, the modern human diet has drifted dangerously far from what our brains evolved to handle. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors consumed natural fats that existed in balance, in harmony with the body's biology. But in just the last century, everything changed. Oils extracted from soybeans, corn, sunflower, and canola seeds began to dominate the global food supply. Cheap to produce, easy to store, and heavily marketed as heart-healthy, these oils quickly found their way into nearly every processed food you can imagine, from the chips you snack on, to the restaurant meals you trust, to the packaged food sitting on your shelf right now. And here's the unsettling truth: your brain doesn't recognize these oils as safe, because at a chemical level, they behave very differently from the fats your body was designed to use. Industrial seed oils are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids. Now, omega-6 itself is not the enemy. Your body needs it in small amounts, but the problem is the imbalance. For most of human history, the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats was roughly 1.1. Today, in the modern diet, that ratio can skyrocket to 20.1, or even higher. And this imbalance sets off a chain reaction inside your brain. Because when omega-6 levels are too high, they promote the production of inflammatory molecules. And inflammation, especially in the brain, is where the real damage begins. This isn't the kind of inflammation you feel when you injure your body. This is silent, invisible, relentless. It seeps into your neural tissue, disrupting the delicate environment your brain needs to function. Neurons begin to lose their efficiency. Signals that once traveled smoothly between brain cells start to weaken. Your thoughts become slower, your focus begins to fade, and your memory starts to slip. But the damage goes even deeper. Your brain is protected by something called the blood-brain barrier, a highly selective shield that controls what enters and what stays out. It's designed to keep toxins away from your most vital organ. But chronic inflammation caused by excessive omega-6 intake begins to weaken this barrier. Tiny gaps start to form, and through these gaps, harmful substances, things that should never reach your brain, begin to leak in. Toxins, pathogens, inflammatory compounds. Once inside, they accelerate the destruction. It becomes a vicious cycle. Inflammation leads to damage. Damage leads to more inflammation. And slowly, the structure of your brain begins to change. Studies have shown that diets high in inflammatory fats are linked to increased risk of cognitive decline, depression, and neurodegenerative diseases. Your brain over time becomes less adaptable, less resilient, less alive, and yet most people have no idea this is happening. Because the effects don't show up immediately. They build quietly over decades of routine habits. Cooking with vegetable oil, eating fried food, trusting labels that say light, healthy, or cholesterol-free. Each choice seems harmless, but together they create an internal environment where your brain cannot thrive. Now here's where it becomes even more alarming. Industrial seed oils are highly unstable when exposed to heat. When you fry or cook with them, they oxidize easily, producing toxic byproducts known as aldehydes. These compounds are not just harmful, they are directly damaging to brain cells. They attack the very structure of your neurons, impairing their function and accelerating aging. Imagine pouring a substance into your body that slowly breaks down the cells responsible for your thoughts, your memories, your identity, and doing it every single day. This is the hidden cost of modern convenience. But just like with sugar, the story doesn't end here. Because once you understand the damage, you gain the power to stop it. Your brain is not helpless. It is waiting for you to give it what it truly needs. And that begins with restoring balance. Instead of industrial seed oils, your brain thrives on natural, stable fats, fats that have been part of the human diet for generations. Olive oil, rich in monounsaturated fats and powerful antioxidants, has been shown to reduce inflammation and protect brain function. Coconut oil provides a unique source of energy in the form of medium-chain triglycerides, which your brain can use efficiently, especially when glucose metabolism is impaired. Even traditional fats like butter, when sourced from grass-fed animals, contain nutrients that support brain health when consumed in moderation. These are not just alternatives, they are fuel for a healthier brain. And the shift doesn't have to be dramatic. It can begin with something as simple as changing the oil you cook with. Choosing whole, unprocessed foods over packaged ones, being mindful of what goes into your body, not just for your weight, but for your mind. Because every meal is a message to your brain. It's either telling your brain to inflame or to heal, to break down or to rebuild. And over time, those messages shape your future. Imagine reaching your later years with a mind that is still sharp, still clear, still capable of remembering the moments that matter most. This is not just luck. It is the result of daily choices, quiet decisions that protect your brain long before the symptoms appear. So the next time you stand in your kitchen, holding a bottle of cooking oil, take a moment, look beyond the label. Ask yourself what this substance is really doing inside your body. Because the truth is, the greatest threat to your brain is not something dramatic or sudden.